Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Frank Candido. I handle investor relations at New RAN Wireless, Inc. It is Tuesday, November 16th, and welcome to a corporate update video with Francis Letourneau, CEO of New RAN Wireless. Good afternoon, Francis.
Hello, Frank. How are you?
Amazing. So just to give a little bit of background as to why you felt it was necessary to publish this video at this time. Obviously, we're all a little disappointed in the way the stock has been reacting in the last little while. For whatever reason, we're not quite sure. The stock has not rallied. And in fact, it has sold down a few pennies since, where we were trading, a few weeks ago. So obviously there's a lot of disappointment. We do get a lot of emails, a lot of text messages, lots of questions. And I guess today, the reason for today's video was really to, sort of let people know that things are going pretty good at New RAN Wireless and that there's no reason to think otherwise. And so I guess, Francis, you'd like to set that record straight. So why don't we go ahead? We have a list of topics that we want to discuss. And we're going to start with the general topic of, the sites that are getting built and being launched, et cetera. The only sort of temporary, and I stress the word temporary, negative news is that, like a lot of other companies in all sorts of businesses across the world, we're suffering from, some supply chain issues, notably batteries that are not getting delivered on time. But, we expect this to be a very short-term problem. And, although it, may account for some delays, we think that they're very short-term in nature and ultimately will be rolling out sites, maybe a month or two behind, but we will be rolling out sites, as per our plan that we've already stated. So why don't we start with that, Francis? There's a couple of things. Yes. Why don't we talk about the sites that you've rolled out, the data that you're getting from those sites, which is extremely important, and what the plan is going forward. Why don't you start with that?
First of all, yes. So your intro was fantastic, Frank. I'm trying to find out from a stock price point of view where the fundamental of the company have changed. We have contracts, we have financing, we are operating, we're delivering sites. I don't see the point, but let's go to the nitty-gritty of this thing because it's really important because that we can probably rename instead of talking about corporate update back to fundamentals. So regarding Cameroon, we have deployed up to now 10 sites, as you know. These sites are generating 24.08% penetration rate, which is way higher than what we expected. Of course, the ARPU and the usage will grow over time, but even today, out of the 10 sites, we have 3 that are generating revenue that would be higher than the minimum guaranteed amount that we have set with Orange for this same contract. So that's really good. The other thing is also related to the what we call SLA, service level agreement. As we are an operator, by all means, we need to be compliant with the service level agreement, uptime, block rate, and all this thing. And we are at 99.8% uptime on these sites, which is excellent for extra rural site. This is really good. And so we are seeing good data. The number of subscribers per site is growing. The number of minutes usage is growing, and the data usage is also pretty impressive on those things. So once I have sufficient data, and it's all of this after 1 month. So once we have sufficient data, we'll give you and provide you with graphs and curves of the usage in terms of minute, SMSs, and data used. Because yes, 2G does data, Frank, actually, so you know.
Right. Francis, just to repeat, because I may have misunderstood or misheard. What
Yeah.
did you say the subscription rate was so far? At the very beginning?
34.08% after
Right.
29 days of usage.
Okay, so almost 35%, right? Okay.
Yeah, which is almost 10%. It's 10% higher than our business case evaluation.
Right. And one thing that you mentioned in the last press release, given that our budgets and are planned or are based on a 25% subscription rate. So anything above that would suggest more money in terms of subscription money for both Orange and us. And also there were population densities that were upped as well, which also would translate into greater revenue. So all this together would really mean that the revenue forecasted for those sites, and when we get to a sort of critical mass of sites, I don't know what that number is, but maybe 100 or more sites or 200 sites, when we can start really looking at what those numbers are generating, then we can really have a great idea in terms of how we can up those forecasts going forward. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You can probably find this information in the monthly progress report for October that we've done. I've also made some point in the last presentation we did in Montreal at the conference we had last week, as you remember. But I wanted to make that video as well, so people all see those projected results that we have lying in front of us. And this is good because just the sampling out of DRC from 664 site survey that we're doing, we are seeing larger population. And with the penetration rate that we're talking about, the revenues are significantly higher than what we were expecting. Remember when we reported the press release for DRC, Frank, we announced $500 million contract.
Right.
Based on this sampling of 664 sites, today we're talking about 70 million a year for 10 years, so 700 million. And this is on this low penetration rate target.
Right.
Just to give you an example, because I was working on that, so I'll share my screen with you so you see exactly what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
So for the 2,200 sites that we are currently planned for building under contract from our target of 10,000 sites. So we were shooting for our 5-year plan to have $250 million revenue to $125 million EBITDA Canadian, all of this within 5 years. Since we are in a due diligence phase for a large development bank debt financing, we'll talk about this later. We are doing our due diligence. You see the revenue curve. Look at this, how impressive that is. So now for Cameroon, batch 1, batch 2, and DRC 2,000 site, we look forward for $91 million of revenue yearly once fully built for 10 years.
That's Canadian dollars?
This is Canadian dollars. Yes, I've put this mark here.
Right.
And that will be generating an EBITDA. Look at the numbers. It's way bigger than this, but this is for the African operation. The EBITDA doesn't count the Canadian operation. So New Rent Canada providing services and everything to those organizations. But even then, we are higher than the 50% EBITDA we were shooting for, and we are way higher in terms of revenue than what we were expecting. This is extremely important. And all of this is within that 5-year build plan, where you see here, we are on a rate of 300 to 400 sites built on a yearly basis to get to that 2,200 sites built by 2027. You see that?
Right.
The graphs here. This is the build plan, the capex that will be spent, the yearly build, and the cool thing is that the $30 million debt deal that we're talking about will be sufficient to debt finance all of DRC and Cameroon. Cool thing about Cameroon, the first batch is already financed. and we have done a raise last summer that allow us to have 4 million out of this private placement that is being used for DRC. So we're not stopping. We're continuing the operation and the delivery. So just wanted to share that with you because I thought it was important to see some numbers, right? Because we're aiming for something way bigger than what we thought. But if we just aim to what we announced last spring, we will be happy. But
Right.
if we double that, we will be more than happy, of course.
Okay, so Francis, just before we move on to the next topic,
Yeah.
You're roughly aiming at about 300 to 400 sites per year in the rollout of the 2242 under contract right now, which we expect that number to change as well. So all these numbers are changing, everything's changing, but it's all changing for the positive. So that said, we're only at 10 sites. We're now November 16th. And we had a number in mind for the end of November. In fact, some shareholders remind us that we had a number in mind for end of August, end of September, end of October, and they're not very happy about it. And, listen, when you're a shareholder, you have a right to be upset about anything you want to be upset about. Let's face it. But that said, how confident are you that we're going to resolve this short-term battery issue and that you will be deploying sites at least next year, at the pace that you expect to be, deploying? Like, how confident are you that this is going to resolve itself in the short term here?
I like this question. I'm being asked this question all the time, but it's good that we have the opportunity to talk about this here. First of all, in terms of how confident are we to get the battery cleared from customs so we can start deploying, I'm really confident. So they've landed in the continent. As you know, we reported that in the last corporate update. We're clearing them out from customs, and then we will start rolling out. Actually, you need to know that POs for the first 120 sites batch for DRC and 120 sites batch for Cameroon, POs and payment have all been done so far. So we're just waiting to clear them out and to roll. The thing that you need to know, we have sufficient team on the ground to recuperate the delays incurred by the battery logistic. Are you talking, Frank? I think you're on mute. Yes. Were you talking to me? No. Okay.
No.
So we make it, I like it. Let's keep it that way. So yes, so we can deploy a site within 2 to 3 days, Frank. Okay, having multiple teams on the ground, you can easily recuperate the delays that you have gone through with the logistics and supply chain issue. It's not a problem. But the other thing that I'm also mentioning to a lot of people is that even if we're delayed there on the deployment, it's not a matter if the company is not executing, if the company is not good. It's just delays that are not under our control. But once we have the total bill of quantity, so all the materials, battery, cabinet, power, the towers, the antennas, the cabling, and everything, we can deploy sites within days. So it's as easy as this, and having multiple teams. For DRC, for example, in Cameroon, we're working with Sagemcom, a well-known company from the civil works and engineering world, and they've been well known. They have 17 countries in operation in Africa, a French company. They are used to work with Orange. They are well organized, well equipped. They can run multiple site installation at the same time. The other thing also to mention, and for DRC, we've selected 3 vendors, Frank. Leadcom, Smartco, Natec. These guys are just waiting for the batteries and the kits to arrive in country to release their people and to let them go to the site and build. Things that is also important to know is that the site acquisition for the first 48 sites for Cameroon and up to the 120 for Cameroon and the first 60 sites for DRC, site lease, site permit, everything has been acquired. We're just waiting to go and build. That's it. So we're executing. We have this roadblock in front of us, but it should be clear within the next couple of days. So that's really good, and we will be executing. On the other side of the story, Since it's not built, of course, we're not accumulating revenue, but first, for the first few months of operation for those sites, we will only be billing, I think, the minimum guaranteed amount mostly. So revenue-wise, we're not impacted. We have cash to continue. It's not a problem.
Excellent. Okay, so let's move on, Francis, because we don't want this video to go on too long. Financing. Let's talk about financing. You announced that you got the credit approval for the Cameroon, for the first leg of the Cameroon contract.
Yes.
Because as we know, there are two aspects to the Cameroon contract. It was a second amount, but for the first amount, you got the first 3 million or so approved, right? So maybe you want to talk about when you expect those funds to be released. Also, where are you at on the DRC financing as well? Maybe you want to just touch base on those things.
I'll start with Cameroon because it's the simplest one. Yes, the credit approval committee has been signing off on our deal. We're just running through the paperwork. Final steps should be, which date are we? It's the 16th, it's the 18th that the board is approving everything, and we should be good to go. It's paperwork and getting the funds out, Frank. So we are at this stage. So it's not a problem on that one. Case closed. We can put it behind us. Now the big thing, because we have a second batch for Cameroon for 120 sites, and we have 2,000 sites to build in DRC. So we are seeking a $30 million US debt deal with development banks. I'm not telling which banks or anything, but we are in advanced discussion. We have hired consulting group, one from a loan point of view and the other one from a telecom point of view, to do a deep dive due diligence on our model in order to be able to present that to the development bank for approval. In terms of steps, we have access to a short-term potential with these development banks. They stand on a fund that could be available really quick. Typically, with those banks on in a senior debt type structure, it takes 9 months to a year to get that close. We should be able to accomplish that within a couple of months. We are presenting our case in a couple of days from now, and I'll be traveling to London to meet them as well, beginning of December. Following that, we should have news within a couple of weeks from that visit in London. And the term sheet that we contemplate is kind of a confirmation that the money will flow in. So we're really close to get $30 million debt financing for DRC and Cameroon to complete the build. And this is the reason why our build program is on 5 years. You've seen the graph earlier. Because we wanted to get the 30 million plus finance from operation, the rest of the site. So 30 million will be enough to support that program, those two projects together.
Okay, so before we get into the next topic, which kind of leads into the next topic, what happens then if you were to book more sites? Let's just say you signed a contract for another 1,000 sites, just to throw out an easy number. Like, what happens then in another country? Then you go back to the drawing board again, you go back to the same people again. Do they up the amount? Like what do you think would happen at that point? Because obviously you're expecting to continue to sign sites here. So, how do you get those financed?
Our objective has always been to debt finance those deals and not to equity finance those deals to avoid as much as possible dilution for our shareholders. So our objective was to go there, and the selection of a development bank and the selection of a local commercial bank that has multiple subsidiary across Africa was done on purpose, because we don't want to redo and start over again. We want to go with a banking institution that has this capability of bringing another loan and another loan and another loan. So this is why we've made the selection of the commercial bank out of Cameroon and this development bank that we're talking about. So should we have additional 1,000 sites, we will just start another round. But since the due diligence has been done on the model, We just copy paste it and start over again. So that will reduce the timing it takes to get that done. What we were told from a commercial bank point of view from Cameroon is that since the process has been completed for Cameroon, next one in another country should be reduced dramatically.
Right. And this is why what I've been saying all along, Francis, is that, you know, and I believe this to be the fact, what's very important is this data, right? Data from the sites that you're building, data from the subscription from those sites, data from the revenue that's flowing from those sites. So as you start accumulating that data, and as we start getting to a critical mass of sites that are actually live, and we're accumulating that data, I think all of these dominoes will fall quite easily. And that's really, and so it's a kind of chicken and egg thing. And
Absolutely.
I understand the frustration of shareholders because I share that frustration as you do. We all want this to go fast as possible. But, you know, the fact is that we are in this world where, you know, I mean, people can't seem to find employees to work in a local restaurant, let alone, you know, that there's issues across the economy, across the world today. And our only issue so far is, you know, to secure enough of these batteries, but we are unlocking that as we speak.
Yes.
Francis. Like, for
Yes.
example, we have received the shipment in country as we announced last week. So they are coming and you are starting to see those shipments, you know, start to flow. So, you know, as we start to, you know, like I said, go live on sites, accumulate that data, et cetera, we really think those dominoes will start to fall. So fantastic. Next, why don't we talk about
going back to the
Yes.
going back to my statement, Frank, the fundamentals are there. We know it's working. Yes, those numbers would just prove our point, but we have contract, we have, and we are deploying. So we're still on the bang on the fundamentals. Yes, a bit of delays here and there, but nothing dramatic. Everything is manageable, so we're good to go. Orange contract are rock solid too. We are investing, Frank. It's important. These guys cannot disconnect and say, you're out. You've missed your deadline. You're out. We're not the supplier. We are a partner.
Right.
We are investing where they can't invest, Frank. So
Right.
everything is rock solid from all point of view.
Okay.
So we're still, but I'm with you. The data will speak. And we will start doing, we announced to Orange DRC that we will, and Orange Cameroon, that we will run 2G and 3G pilot in Q2 2022, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. So we will be loading a lot of information to increase on the business case and increase on the valuation of this company.
Right. Okay. Next,
Yes.
MOUs. I get a lot of questions about this, so please address this. You had announced two previous, I think, MOUs that have not, three that have not translated into contracts yet. Can you please update our shareholders on where we stand with those? Are they dead? Are they real? Are they going to happen? Like, you know, give us some information, whatever you can.
Good. I like it. So let me first bring you back a year and a half ago. We announced Orange DRC and Orange Cameroon MOU in April, May 2020, if I recall correctly. 5 months after, we had a contract with Orange Cameroon, and 10 months after, we had a contract with Orange DRC. Some can go fast, some can go slow, but that's the case. So going back to the one, Sierra Telecom, there are organizational changes. We will keep people updated as we go. For Telenor Consulting for Mali, this is an ongoing process. We're still defining sites, telecom operator, and so forth. So it's good to go as well. The one that is closer to contract is MTN South Sudan. So our contract is on the legal review. The CEO is happy with this. The CFO is happy with that too. We're just finalizing the latest detail, the last detail about this, and we should be good to go for the South Sudan MTN MOU. It's for 250 sites with 58 to start with, where we replace other equipment vendor equipment, and we will be operating sites. So those are actual non-working sites that we will be replacing, plus an additional 200. So we've started this process already. These guys are way up to speed. We just need to get the contract signed and move on, Frank.
Okay, that's fantastic. Now that leads into the last thing, RFPs. Okay.
Yes.
I know that you are quoting on a lot of business. So maybe you want to talk to our shareholders a little bit about that, because the numbers are a bit staggering.
So, Frank, if there's a point of frustration on my side, this is the one, but it's all looking good. We are in RFP for over 14,000 sites with MTN, with a large RFP. They call it the Rural Acceleration RFP. We have made a non-solicited proposal last spring. They decided to launch an RFP for corporate governance. So we're on top of this. It's really important. This one, we're reaching the negotiation phase. Last RFP for MTN, by the time they launched the RFP and they awarded the contract, it took them 7 months. This time they call it the Rural Acceleration. So hopefully it will go faster. So they launched it in August. We have submitted our proposal September 2nd. We presented our technical proposal on September 20, if I recall correctly. Now we're accepted. We're running through negotiation phase as we speak. So that's the, let's say, final stage, but there could be two negotiation round. So we're on target. So everything looks good and promising from MTN point of view. Orange, we are in RFP for 4 of them. They are still ongoing. We are expecting answers on those probably. I was expecting now, but they said by beginning of Q1 we should get answers on at least 2. The others 2, it's a work in progress, but it's still there. We're still shortlisted. It's just timing. I would have liked to announce it sooner, but we're still in the race, and we look good, especially that we are successful with Cameroon and DRC.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. So, before we end, Francis, because it's actually been a little bit longer than I thought we would go, we're trading at approximate 40 million market cap or less Canadian. You flashed up a screen showing us that you could generate upwards of $90 million annually of revenue, recurring revenue, with EBITDA margins that are phenomenal. Maybe you just want final comments on, where we're trading and why you think that our company is severely undervalued.
I'm not allowed to put a price tag to the stock myself, but we're definitely undervalued. We have a business that is going to grow. Our objective of 10,000 sites in 5 years is not aggressive. I think it's not easily, but can be achieved within the next, at least under contract, within the next 3 years. So we are in the pace of connecting the planet. The development banks are there to support that initiative. We are tackling also the ESG investment thing. So the company valuation could be so high, Frank. The 40 million market cap that we have today is a joke. That's it. So let me just finish by saying this, as they did, whatever. It's not fun. I don't like it either, but I know with what's coming that the company that will be valued way higher than that. I'm extremely confident, and I will work along those lines. I have a lot to win to see this share price going up, as everybody know. So I'll be working for the shareholders to generate that value, and that value will start with contracts, deliveries, numbers, and so forth. We are in that stage, Frank, now. So we're doing financing, and as we come along, we will be operating and reporting, and then you will see a price stabilize and probably something on the upward side. So we can potentially accelerate our warrants exercise, Frank, as you know, part of the private placement. But no, the price is definitely not where it should go, between you and me.
Okay, well, with shoulders shrugging, arms in the air, and the quote of quotes from Francis Letourneau, it's a joke. My name is Frank Candido. I want to thank you again. Send us your text messages, your emails, etc. I can't promise that we can answer all questions, and we certainly cannot, give you any sort of forward-looking information. But as best as possible, we will try to address those questions. And thank you, Francis Letourneau, CEO of New Rand Wireless. Have a great day.
Thank you.